All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. Hopefully, you guys can hear me all right and everything. Had a couple of minor technical issues that took me a little bit to get resolved before we got started tonight, but I think I've got everything worked out. So, all right. So, we are going to pick up tonight where we left off last week, which is with asset packaging. But before we do that, I do have something I want to bring up. And before we do that, I do want to take a quick second just to thank the supporters of the channel, starting with our partners who are the highest tier of subscription over on Patreon and YouTube memberships. They are Dustin Punt, Gebby Bashir, and Gerboles Inc. I'd also like to thank all the other supporters listed here on the screen. They are a combination of the other tiers of support over on Patreon, YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated and helps me grow the channel and cover the costs associated with running it. So thank you very much for that. In addition, I'd also like to thank all the viewers, whether you're here on the Twitch side or the YouTube side. Without you guys, this project wouldn't exist. So thank you all very much for being here, interacting, following along, etc. So with that being said, yes, episode 220. Yeah, craziness, right? Hello, everybody. Hey, Spiro. Hey, Tazdouche. Yeah, we are. I did want to bring up something really, really quickly before we actually jump back into the asset packaging stuff. We were talking about, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, about performance. And we were saying, hey, the frame rate has kind of been poopy for a while. And I was like, well, there's some things we need to look at. And as it turns out, yes, there are some things we need to look at. Most importantly, I forgot to actually disable validation in the renderer, which is a huge source of frame rate drops, because I was profiling it and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I had forgotten to mention that you can turn off validation to gain a pretty substantial performance increase. And so if I switch that to false, right, and run, and we'll just load up here our scene, maximize, right? This is a 4K display that we're looking at it on, right? And if I turn off VSync, you can see that we're hitting like 250 frames a second. Actually close to, yeah, well, 220 or so, depending on where I'm looking, right? So it's not quite as dire as we initially thought it was going to be. If we go, in here, it's pretty decent as well. So, it's, like I said, it's not quite as dire as I initially thought, in terms of needing performance and, enhancements in terms of, things we have to troubleshoot and whatnot. There are some things we need to do. We don't have level of detail in. We don't have, some of our culling isn't quite aggressive enough. Some of our culling is not quite right as well. So we do have some things to adjust. We do have some things to look at, but I just wanted to bring that up because it's not quite as dire as it seemed before, because I had simply forgotten to mention that. So with that said, let me go ahead, and this is on the 0.8 branch, by the way. So let's do. Let's go back to the K package branch, right, and we'll continue where we were. Hope that makes sense. Apparently I saved the terminal as part of the session. Don't need that. All right. Let's see. Let me catch up with... Oh, by the way, I think I did finally fix the bot on both sides, so it should be working again. Today I started working on my C# monogame platformer I haven't touched since February 2023. Awesome. Continued. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's awesome. Glad to hear it. The bot is working. Yes, it seems to be. Singy, hello. How's it going? Good to see you. All right. So let's see. Let's get an idea of where we were last time. I believe where we were last time, we were able to load up the manifest and store all of our entries. Judging by the destroy here, it looks like we've gone ahead and got all that up and running. I believe we also had set up, let's see, we have bytes get here. Oh, this was actually something that I had kind of thought of a little bit offline as well. So one of the things that we did was we had this sort of issue that we ran into where we have this is text, right? Do we treat the type as text? And we were passing sort of the type that was passed in here. And then we have this sort of or pre-registered list of types that are to be treated as text asset types, right? And the idea was that we would expand that list as time went on. But I'm thinking that might not actually be the right approach, right? Maybe we should actually have 2 entry points into the K package level, right? One that gets it as text, the other that gets it as just straight up binary bytes, right? And the reason for that is I think that that type abstraction probably should not exist at this level. That should be more of a file system thing that sits on top of this. We want to keep the K package sort of as light as possible. So I think I'm going to do away with that. We're going to have basically 2 entry points, right? We can probably reuse a lot of this logic and separate this out. And the main difference here is we have this file system read all text versus file system read all bytes. And so I think that is a change that is worth making. And then we can start actually building out the virtual file system on top of it. Because it looks like to me, we've done all that we need to do as far as that's concerned. I believe the only thing that I don't remember is if this I think we have to do we have to do a double call on this? I forget. So for the memory allocation, no, we already allocate that here. Okay, so that's already handled as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this portion of the function, cut it, and make a new static function, which essentially makes it private. We're going to call this, I guess we're going to say resolve asset path, right? We're going to do I guess we can do a constant character array here, right? And we're just going to paste this in here real quick. And so the idea is that we're essentially going to do all of this stuff. In fact, we might even include the size lookup and the memory allocation in that as well. And then essentially the 2 functions will just do this portion, right? So maybe we'll, let's see, we're going to have to also handle the file, grab a file handle and close that out. Okay, so we're going to need a few things. We're going to need the package, so K package. Did we have that as constant? Yeah, we did. Okay, so let's make that constant. We are going to have, whoops, we are going to have let's see, I guess we'll do do we want to do type? Yes, we need to do type here. So we'll do type, and then we'll do name. And then we'll also do file handle, and we'll say out handle. And then we'll also do a U64 pointer, and we'll say out size. Maybe we just say resolve asset, right? So we'll return the path on disk to asset, right? And then we'll return a file handle, and we'll return the size of that file, right? And then what we'll do is we can take this section out of here, right? And we could put it here. And then we'll have a copy of this guy down here. And this first one we'll just do bytes get, and then we'll say text get. And this can actually be a constant character array. And I think that's all we should need to do in terms of that. So now what we can do is we'll come back up to, well, actually, I guess let's solve this first, right? So this one is not text. So this is the binary load. Right, so we'll do that. And then this one is text. So we'll do that. Okay. So out size, we have out size there. That should be fine. Treat type is text. We don't need that anymore. I'm going to comment this out because I think we're going to need that in the virtual file system layer. And then, let's see, file system open. We do need B8 is binary. We do need that flag passed. And then I think that's just a is binary. Yeah. So let's change this. Instead of being negative, we'll do is binary, right? So that'll open the file handle. Instead of F here, we are going to pass out handle. Out handle here as well. And then we need that there. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Non-codes with a raiding party of 40. Thank you so much for the raid. How are you doing tonight? What'd you get up to on stream? Welcome, raiders. We are actually just getting started, believe it or not. Got a little bit of a late start tonight, but what'd you guys get up to? I'm doing well, thank you for asking. So what we are working on is, I'll give the quick spiel here. What we are building is a game engine using C. We're building it from scratch, and we're using Vulkan as our initial rendering backend. We also plan to support Direct 3D and Metal as well. It is a cross-platform game engine, so it runs on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. It is completely open source and free, so it's Apache 2.0 licensed, which means you can use it independently, commercially, does not matter. All that I ask is that you say that you used it. If you used it, that's it. There will never be any sort of licensing fees or any sort of royalties of any kind ever associated with this. To give a little background, it started off as a tutorial series on YouTube, and now we have kind of changed formats, and we live stream development of it on Twitch. And this is basically the website that kind of contains all the information there. So I'll drop a link on both sides there, assuming my bot is working and doing the thing. Yes. And we've got other links on that site to our Discord, the GitHub, etc. And so what we're doing tonight is we are building up a packaging system for our assets in the game. And basically what that means is when we go to ship a game, we're going to need some way to handle assets. And we also have a plugin system which can also provide assets with plugins, things like that. And so we need a way to be able to manage those assets from different sources and be able to have the game actually be able to pull those in a very simplistic and uniform way. That's very easy to use. And so that's what we're building out tonight. We're building out two versions of it. So there is a sort of debug version where we have an asset manifest file, which looks a little bit like, I guess I'll pull up this one. So this is the one for our UI system, right? So it contains like our shaders. It contains, I believe, a couple of textures, some fonts, things like that. And essentially, whoops, I've got an extra slash there that doesn't belong there. And so basically, this contains a lookup of asset names, asset type, and then where it actually exists on disk. And so our debug version basically is just a pointer to a file on disk. When we go to build this out for release, it'll be a huge binary blob that actually contains all of these assets that we built based off of this asset manifest. And we will perform lookups in that binary blob instead of to random paths on disk. The shipped assets will also all be converted to binary, so it'll basically be pick up the asset from the binary blob, jam it into memory, and it's loaded. At least that's the plan, right? So that's kind of what we're building out tonight. I doubt we'll get it finished tonight because that's kind of a lot of work. And then on top of that, we're also building a virtual file system to be able to access those things so that the user is not aware of whether it's coming from a package, a binary package, or from disk or whatever. All they have to say is, hey, load this thing from the package, and it just does it. So I hope that makes sense. Just finishing cleaning some stuff on the playlist application after a database design change. Ooh, database design changes are always fun. Especially if you have like lots of structures in your code that are modeled after that could be fun. Thank you guys for the follows, by the way. I really appreciate that. Cool. All right. So yeah, we were just kind of in the middle of asset resolution with that. And we kind of figured out a lot of this on stream last time, but I kind of thought about it a little bit offline and decided I wanted to do it a slightly different, cleaner way. And so our packaging system is basically only going to deal with the sort of file I/O stuff, and then our virtual file system is going to deal with all the packages that are loaded, deciding what package contains what asset and which package to look at to actually load an asset and things of that nature. So we're splitting those two things up as well. You just deleted a whole table? Oh, okay. Yeah, that is much easier to deal with. Am I working on this with somebody else? No. I'm currently doing this all by myself with a few exceptions. There have been a couple of contributors to the repo who have added various bug fixes and things. The biggest exception to that is the initial scaffolding of the macOS layer was done by this person. But other than that, most of this stuff is like, code fixes and stuff like that. But yeah, I have accepted a few pull requests on it. But other than that, 99.9% of it is me. Kind of crazy for, I suppose, trying this on my own. But hey, I love doing it, so where's the harm in that, right? Okay. Oh, yeah, I did code water off of stream last week. Yeah. I suppose I think I can actually run it. Let me run this real quick, because I don't think I've actually rebuilt it yet. Yeah, I did. I can't run it. Hold on a second. Let me... let's see. That's going to screw up my Vim session if I do that. Unfortunately, I can't run it at the moment because I've actually got code broken. So, yeah, unfortunately, I can't demo it. I actually just put some shiny water in place. It's actually, I can show you kind of what it looks like. It's actually on my ad screen, believe it or not. That's kind of what it looks like there. This is the screen I usually pop up for when we have ad breaks, which I think I would imagine one of those is probably coming soon anyway. But yeah, that's kind of what the new water looks like that we just added the week before last. So yeah, anyway. Fancy stuff. And we need the crazy people to have cool things. I agree with that. Totally agree with that. Look at John Carmack. He's definitely crazy. Crazy awesome. All right. So what we have here is we're resolving an asset. So this should return the path of the asset, and then it'll take in the package it's reading from, whether or not it's a binary asset, the type to read from our type listing, the name of the asset, and then it should set a file handle and set the out size of that asset. So we basically open a handle to that, perform a query for the size, and then let's see. We just need to return the entry path at that point, actually. So actually, this doesn't belong here. That belongs after the binary check. And then the only other thing here is we don't actually have the binary package support yet. So if we try to load a package as binary, we're just going to error out for right now because we don't actually have the binary blob sort of written yet. So my goal is to get the sort of file pointer version of it working and then get that working afterwards. Okay, so we open the file, we get the file system size, and then we should be able to return entry name. I don't think there's anything in here we need to clean up. No. Okay, so if we get all the way to the end, we say the package has no entry called that, blah, 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 return 0. That does not belong there. I guess if we have, technically this could fall through all the way to here. Oh wait, that's specific type. So I guess we have a specific type, and then we also have a separate error message that just says no entry called exists in the package. Right. So this one is without type. There. Okay. So that's our asset resolve. Asset path equals asset resolve. Whoops. Didn't I call that? Oh, I called it resolve asset. Let's rename that. So we'll do asset resolve package is binary. So in this case, since we're loading the bytes, we're going to say true. The type will just pass through as is. The name will pass through as is. The file handle we'll need here. So file handle F will pass the address of that And then we'll also need to hold the size. So we'll say U64 size. We'll pass the address of size. All right, and then we'll do if.
Showing my sub anniversary while Twitch throws an ad on me.
I appreciate that, Weird Trash Can. Thank you very much for the sub. Diamond, good to see you as well. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. All right. Where's my ad timer? Just kind of went away on me. Let me switch layouts here. There it is. Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured. We have ads coming in a few minutes. All right. So if not asset path, then we've failed to look up the asset. So we'll just spit out another error message that says kpackage asset bytes gets failed to find asset. And then we actually need to close the file handle. So let's do file system close. We'll pass the address of F. And thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Did this return a Boolean? I don't remember. I don't think so. Okay. That should be F. All right, so we need to close the file. And then we'll say if asset path. Then we need to do string free asset path. And I just realized actually that's going to cause a problem up here because I was returning the entry name. This should be a duplicate of that. We don't want to actually return the same pointer. So string duplicate. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. All right, so all right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to say if success, and I know we haven't defined that yet, then we're actually going to return something, and then else we'll do this, right? And actually, do we even need success? I think we could just do file content. Yeah. So, whoops, file content is actually what I want to free. So I don't need this, I need that. Actually, I only want to free that if, no, it was asset path. What am I doing? Confusing myself here. Okay, if we have asset path, we want to go ahead and free that. We don't need it anymore. Now what we want to do is we want to create a label. Package asset bytes get. And we want to treat this as a label. And then we want to return file content in this case. And then if this fails, we want to go to kpackage bytes get. This should be cleanup. And we have ads. So one thing I like to do is I like to pause the stream whenever we have ads come up. I think I was a few seconds late there on the ad screen, but I just don't want anybody to miss content. So we go ahead and pause the stream whenever ads come up. Gives you a chance to hydrate or something like that. And for those of you who are getting ads right now, I'll briefly repeat this at the end of the ad. Odd Oculus with the raid. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're on an ad break right now, but thank you so much for the raid. I'll give an intro here in just a second once we come back from ads. So just bear with me for another 30 seconds, and we'll be good to go. This timer is actually a little bit slow, so. We got about, looks like about 12 seconds left, actually. Okay. All right. So, thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate that. Welcome, raiders. Sorry you guys caught us during an ad break, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So what we are working on here is we are working on a game engine that is written from scratch in C using Vulkan as our initial rendering backend. We do have plans to support DirectX, or Direct3D rather, as well as Metal in the future. But for right now, we're rolling with Vulkan. It is cross-platform, so it does currently run on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. It is open source and free, so it is available on GitHub. I'll drop a link here to sort of the main site here that we have. But it is Apache 2.0 license, which means that if you want to use the engine commercially or independently, it does not matter. All that I ask is that you say you used it. It will never have any sort of licensing fees or royalties of any kind. It will always be free. It started off as sort of a tutorial series on how to build an engine, and it evolved into a live stream format that we have here today. The other stuff we have on here is links to the Discord, YouTube, Twitch. We do stream to both. And then GitHub and Patreon links. If you want that stuff, that's all there as well. And so what we are working on tonight is asset packaging, which is basically a way for us to standardize the way that assets come into the engine, as well as the way that we ship assets with the game. So we're building out the package system right now, and then we're going to build a virtual file system on top of the packaging system, and go from there. So I hope that that makes sense to everybody. One thing I do want to bring up too is we do pause the stream whenever ads come up so that nobody misses anything, because that kind of sucks for a programming stream to, have a full screen ad that comes up. You can't see or hear what's going on, and then you miss stuff, and it's just not great for the end experience, right? The end user experience. So I like to pause on that. Binary assets. Yes, we are going to have binary assets as well. We actually do already have some binary assets, like our static meshes. Our static meshes are already binary, right? So we do support some of that stuff. We'll eventually be doing that with textures as well. So what we're doing here is we basically have, this is what the call into the packaging system is going to look like. So you provide a package that you want to load from, the type of asset you want to load. And the reason that's a string is so that's extensible. It's user extensible, right? If I did an enumeration or something like that, it's not as extensible, right? And it also allows the user to input a string that looks sort of like this. Like if they wanted to say, I want to load something from the runtime package, it's a texture, and it's rock, 01 or something like that. That's essentially how you request an asset. From the virtual file system, and it'll say, it'll pick this apart and say, okay, well, we're talking about the runtime package. We're looking for a texture within that package called rock01, right? And so here, by the time it gets here, we already have a pointer to the package. We have the type name, the name of the assets, and a pointer to hold the out size of the asset that we're loading. It also returns a void pointer, which is just a block of memory. And that's basically just going to load up whatever we find on disk for this asset, or in the binary blob if we have that. It's going to just return that as a big old blob of memory, right? Big old blob of bytes. So the way that it does that is we have our asset resolution here, which basically looks through a listing of types. Each type has its own list of assets for that particular type, and then it returns the thing if it's able to find it, right? So it'll perform a file system open, look at the size of that file, and then take down the entry. That shouldn't be the name. That should be the path. Glad I looked at that. And so we get that. We resolve that. And so that resolution returns the asset path, gives us a file handle and the size, right? So we have those two things. If for some reason the asset path does not return anything, meaning it's null, which can happen in error scenarios like we see here, then it'll go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to yell at the user about this because we can't find the asset. And then we're going to use a go-to statement, which this is something I like to bring up on stream every once in a while, because there's a lot of people who bleat about this, right? And say, hey, go-tos are bad, right? But what's worse, a go-to or a bunch of if-else statements that will have a bunch of error scenarios around them, right? I say go-to is much better because you can literally jump from here to here with no overhead, right? I don't need to do these things, right? So I can just jump there. In addition, if I had another error, like say here, right? I can also do the same thing, right? And in this case, I don't need to, right? Necessarily, right? But I could have my cleanup code repeated, right? But here I have to do a cleanup. Here I have to do a cleanup, right? So why would I repeat that code or call a function to do that when I could just use a go-to, right? So it literally just jumps here, closes the file system handle, if it actually exists, right? And this checks to make sure it's actually a file system handle, right? And if it just doesn't, if it's not a valid one, it just ignores it. And then it also checks to make sure, hey, do we have an asset path? Free the string if so. And then we should probably also have in here success, right? And we're going to default to false on that, right? And we're only going to set success to true at the bottom of this, right? Right, so in that case, all we really need to do is take this guy here, right? And we'll say return success file content, otherwise 0, right? And then instead of entry path here at the end, we're just going to do asset path, right? And that's essentially how we're going to load our asset from a package, right? And then we have a text version of that because not all of our assets are going to be binary, right? So for images, for things like static meshes, animated meshes, things like that, those are all going to use the binary version of this. But we have text assets as well, like configuration files, material files, things that are actually text, human readable. And we need to process those slightly different. So it's almost going to be exactly the same as this, but it's going to be the sort of the text version of that. Kuju with a raid of 25. Geez, the third raid for tonight. Thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate that. How are you doing? I am having a good stream. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, what we are doing tonight, I don't know how much of it you caught because I was kind of in the middle of the spiel, but we're setting up a packaging system for our assets tonight. You're working on some polish stuff to try and get a workable demo. You've been putting it all off. Awesome. If you guys haven't seen Kuju's project, by the way, it's freaking awesome. I owe some people some shoutouts, by the way. I just completely realized I forgot to give shoutouts. I'm going to give them in the order that they came in. If I can type. So the first one goes to non-codes. Wait, 33 minutes. Did somebody give a shout out for me? Oh, I guess maybe I did. Okay. I guess I gave that one. Okay. Or maybe one of my mods did it. All right. So the next one will go to. Nope. All right. I guess my mod got both of those. I wasn't paying attention, I suppose. What is... My shoutouts aren't working for some reason, I guess. I don't know. All right. It is what it is, I suppose. Yeah. Must be the mods, I suppose. Yeah, I don't see it showing up on my chat, though. That's the weird thing. Oh, you did give the shoutouts. Okay, thank you, Spiro. It's not, like, showing up in my view, though. It's very weird. But yeah, I guess they are there. All right, thank you, Spiro, for doing that. All right. Which theme is it? I have not seen it in NeoVim. So this is a combination of, I'm using Wes term here. So it's the add Weta, it's the add Weta theme and that, I think. Or is it GitHub Dark? Actually, I think it's GitHub Dark for Wes term, and then I have add Weta on top of it in NeoVim. I actually have my setup here. There you go. I'll drop this on the YouTube side as well. So I wrote up an article with my entire NeoVim setup in there, if you want to have a look at that. Okay, mods, W mods again, yeah. It's weird, it's not showing me the notifications of that, but I appreciate it, Spiro, thank you. Okay, so yeah, we were just talking about how we're setting this up, and I know there's a lot of you in here that are probably seeing like goto, ew, right? Gotos have a valid use, and this is one of them. So it's a way for me to quickly go to cleanup code, right? So if we have an error scenario here, I can just quickly jump to that, bypass my success code, right? And just go to close this, free this if it exists, throw an error, right? This should be success. And then return success. If we have a success, return file content, otherwise 0, right? So in error scenarios, this is a really good way to get around that without having to have if-else statements all over the place, or a function, or worse, a macro to handle that. Petition to create a write command for each time you say write. Yeah. I should also put in a command for every time that somebody asks me why I use C instead of C++. This is kind of the theme I expect from a C dev. It's either something like this or monochrome. I've done monochrome before, but I don't know. This one, just, I like it. Curious why you named the goto label with the prefix of the function name. I haven't considered doing that before. I don't know. It just makes it click in my mind, right? If I wind up having multiple gotos, I suppose, it just, I don't know. It just mentally, it's something I've always just kind of done, and I guess I never thought about it, right? Trash can. There's another counter for you. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this, because that's basically what I want here. Put that here. Take this and do that. asset path. And then this is the text version of that. Okay. And then the only other thing we need to do is flip this binary to false. And then here's where I'll rename that, right? So, so we have text. Text. Didn't I have a... Oh, I need another go to here. Thank you guys for the follows, by the way. I really appreciate that. File content. We don't need that. Okay. I believe that's everything we need in here. So, what we're going to do is, instead of the package system being responsible for knowing about asset types and what type they are, the virtual file system is what's going to be responsible for that. So all the logic that we had about types and like moving that stuff is all going to be hoisted up to that level, like this, for example. I think all we need to do now is go to this file and text. Right? And at this point, I think we're pretty much done with kpackage for now. Just trying to think if there's anything else that we need there. So we have create from manifest, create from binary, which we don't technically support yet, but the entry point's there. We have a way to destroy the package, and then get as bytes or get as text. We will eventually add... Actually, I don't think the runtime needs to have a way to insert into packages. That's going to be done by external tooling. So I think as far as what the core / runtime has to worry about, I think this is the extent of it. So let's go to, let's put this in, I guess platform makes sense for the virtual file system. Do I want to call this? I think I'm just going to call this VFS. This virtual file system is kind of long to type out repeatedly. And I'm also going to add VFS C, but we're going to create the header file first. And we're going to include defines and include... Actually, I don't know if I need anything else besides that. Okay, so let's think about our virtual file system for a second. So a virtual file system is going to manage packages, right? So it is going to need to know about those. So we'll type def a struct, and we'll call this VFS state. And I don't know that we're going to leave this here. We might put it in the C file. But for now, we'll put it here. And then in that state, we're going to have a array of packages. I suppose we could do a U32 package count as well. Or maybe I'll just make this a D array. In fact, we'll use our dynamic array for that, so we don't have to mess with it. So it's going to manage packages. It's also going to have, that's where our lookup table for asset types is going to be in terms of whether they're text or binary. I might keep that logic internal for now. I don't know if I'm going to put that in the actual state. I can't think of anything else that we need to add to the VFS state for right now, so I'm just going to start with that. I was official. Good to see you. How's it going? What is your opinion on Rust? I have not used it enough to form an opinion. I did use it for, I played around with it for a couple of hours and got really annoyed with the compiler yelling at me over every little thing. But yeah, that's about it. So I can't really definitively give a whole opinion. I don't feel like I'm qualified. I've used it enough to be qualified to give an opinion on that, right? At least a qualified opinion. I don't think I'll be using it. Put it that way. I stepped away from more complicated languages to C for a reason. Worse than go-to is early return, and worse than that is try-catch, since that can end up anywhere. So I agree with you about the try-catch. I am a fan of early return, though. Sometimes. Like if there's literally nothing else you need to do in the function, then yeah, I'll early return. Like if there's no cleanup or anything like that, then yeah, I'll early return. I won't use a go-to for that. Okay, so I guess we need to do... We'll need to export the symbol for this. And we'll do a B8 VFS initialize. And to that, we will take a pointer to VFS state. And we're going to call this out state. And I think we're going to take some other properties to that as well. But for right now, I think that's probably fine. Should we take a package list of some sort? Because that's something we could definitely include, like in our app config, for example. So, so if we were to open this, right, we could have something like our package config, right, where we have packages, right? We have, and then we were talking about like maybe we have user processes text types. So I guess we would have like some sort of configuration that we would need to add for this. So let's do another type def. We'll call this VFS config. If I can type it. And we will do an array of strings, package names. And then I guess also text user types. I'm not as worried about supporting that for right now, but we'll get it in there anyway. So we'll do const VFS config. All right, so that'll give us the configuration we need. We also need to do void VFS shutdown. VFS states state. I don't think we need any sort of update loop for this of any kind. I think all we're going to need is basically a way to say, hey, give me this asset, and some sort of callback as to when that asset is completely loaded. Because our asset loading can and is, in several cases, multi-threaded. So, i.e. it's, asynchronous, right? You can think of it that way. So it's not necessarily going to be completed at the time it's called. So we need to think about that a little bit. We need to have a load complete type of structure, at least for reading it from the package. So we might have something that looks like do we use like a struct for the data? I think we probably should. So VFS asset data, I guess. All right, and in this, we're going to have a U64 size. That's easy peasy. And then we're going to have a union. And that union is going to have, let's see, it's going to have a constant character array. We'll say text, right? And then it's also going to have a void pointer bytes. And then I think that might be, do I have the syntax of that wrong? I probably do. I don't write unions that often, so I always have to look. It is commas in between. Why was it bleating about that? Oh, wait, expected at the end of declaration list. Does it just not want that? Eh? Okay, that fix makes absolutely no sense. Right, it should literally just be... Oh, it's comma if it's the same type. If it's a different type, I think it's not comma, I think is what it was. I don't write them often enough to have it committed to memory. That must be it. Okay. Right, so we should be able to say, depending on what type it is, either text or bytes. And then I suppose with the caller should know which type to look at. So we don't really need to include a flag as to whether or not it's binary, I don't think. I suppose we could. All right, we could jam one down here. Okay. Good enough for now. All right, so what we're going to have is a function with adds. Because adds are here. Got to pay the Bezos, right? So for those of you who are new to the channel, we pause on adds just to make sure that nobody misses anything, because full screen ads kind of suck on programming streams. So we make sure to pause so that nobody misses anything. Hey XRS, how's it going? Define struct union. Early return could be a gotcha with performance problems. Something tells me though, with all the things we're doing here, I highly doubt that's going to be the bottleneck. You might be right about that. I might profile it one of these days just to be sure. I see what you mean, but it's the internet. You don't need to be qualified. Well, I mean, I get that. I appreciate the sentiment, but yeah. I think that's part of the problem in the world today is people that aren't qualified to give opinions on things or giving opinions on things. 75 viewers, the numbers are growing. Yeah, I appreciate that. We've been fortunate to have a few raids tonight, so definitely, again, thank you to the raiders for that. Okay. Weird, it only played one 15-second ad for me. First time chat, welcome, by the way. So the reason for that is the way that Twitch ads work is it varies not only by platform that you're on, so like desktop versus mobile phone, but also region and locale. So if you're in France, if they have an ad to fill that slot, then an ad will play, right? But if you're in I don't know, Brazil, right? You might. Now, sometimes they get French ads, but if they don't have an ad to fill, or they don't have enough ads to fill that entire slot, you won't get ads for that entire section, right? So you might only get 15 seconds. You might only get 30 seconds. Maybe you'll get the whole 90 seconds. So I always break just to account for the worst case scenario, which is where you get the full 90 seconds of ads. Ads in France in the same phrase, please now. You knew what you were doing. I didn't do it. But apparently Twitch was serving French ads to Brazil for a while. Trashcan knows this all too well over there. All right, so what we're going to do is for our request functions, we are going to return I think we're actually going to return void, right? Because we won't know. Should we return failure immediately? I think we're going to return void. And what we'll do is we'll say VFS request. We'll say request asset. And we'll do, again, actually, we'll just do request asset, I think. Yeah. So we'll do that. For now, we'll say VFS state. And we'll do the name of the asset. And that's it. It's not it, actually. We need a callback. So much like we did in our event system, right here, right? We'll just set up a function pointer, right? And we'll type F1. And what we'll do is we're going to say the return type of that's going to be void. We're going to say on asset loaded. We'll include the name of the asset. We don't need this. Don't need any of this stuff. And then we'll include VFS asset data. Do we need anything else? I think the asset data should contain everything we need, right? So on asset loaded callback, right? So here we'll say pfn on asset loaded callback, right? So whenever you request an asset, you provide the state, the name of the asset, and the callback. Now the state will be gettable from the engine in a global sort of, almost like a singleton type of way. You can think of it like that. Should I even bother with that? Or maybe it might be a little cleaner if I didn't, right? We're only going to have one VFS, right? So maybe we just have our state be static in the back end. It might be easier to use if we just say request asset, here's a name, here's a callback when the thing loads. Should we also do that? I already don't like the fact that there's two booleans here, and I'm really wanting to bit flag those, but the lifespan of that object is not going to be all that long anyways, I suppose. Yeah. I'm going to make flags. Because we might have other flags that we want to put in there. So we'll type def enum. We'll say VFS asset flag bits. That's asset flag bits. And we'll say VFS asset flag. The first one we're going to do is binary bit, and we're going to set that equal to 1. We'll also do VFS asset flag none, and that's just going to be 0, right? And then let's also do we want to lump success in here or have it be its own thing? I think it's going to be its own thing. Right, so we can say type def enum, not enum, u32 VFS asset flags. Right, and VFS asset flags. Right, that's a little bit more flexible, I think. And then I guess we can keep success separate. We could have like a result that's also a flag, but I don't know if I'd like that or not. So I think we're going to roll with that for right now. Okay, so we have our request asset. I think that's all we need from the virtual file system right now. Right, our initialize should handle all of our package loading. Our shutdown should uninitialize those things, and then our request asset should give us what we need. Okay, so let's take these and go to our implementation file, VFS. Let's get these in here. First off, if we don't have config, or we don't have state, then we need to slap the user. So we'll say include logger, VFS initialize requires valid pointers to config and outstate. Okay. If we do have those things, then we need to come over here. Let's see, where was... Here we go. So this is what our package config kind of looks like before we deserialize it. So we're gonna more or less process it this way. I suppose we should also maybe have something like we should handle the parsing for the package config here. We might also want to do that. But we'll handle the parsed version here. So let's see. Package names. I think we said we're going to treat these as D arrays as well. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. By the way, Brazil mentioned. Yes. Oh, bye fast. You're in Brazil too. We have a lot of Brazilians actually in chat here. A lot of our regulars are actually from Brazil. I've been told I should learn Portuguese. Brazilian Portuguese specifically. Maybe one of these days. We need D-array. So include containers D-array. So our dynamic array is going to be package names equals D-array create. And that's going to be a type of constant character array. Why is this bleating? Oh. I think what I need is that. Cannot assign to variable config. Config is not... Oh, const is... Wait. That's why. Should be outstate packages. Equals doing dumb things. Dingus-oriented programming for the win. Okay, so we create a D array for that, and then we say U32 package name account is D array length config package names. You actually go back to that was correct. I was wrong elsewhere. Okay. So we get our package name counts. I is less than package name counts. And then what we can do is we'll need to actually figure out from our config where these packages actually are, which actually we don't have quite enough room, or quite enough information rather, in here to determine that. So this file, for example, lives in our testbed wait a minute, did we put this? I guess we're technically still loading it out of here. this is the only bit that's going to be like sitting on disk, I think. So that really needs to be here. And then over here, these are actually going to wind up having to be these are going to be, let's see, we need name equals runtime, and then path. We're going to have like, I really don't want pathing in here though. So do we resolve this at build time? Right, when we actually build out these packages, where do they actually look? I guess for now, do we want manifest path? Seems like a bit of a hack. But I guess I think that's actually the folder it actually exists in. Shrink some of this stuff down. Oh, core doesn't have any. It's not core I want runtime. Yeah, it's in kohi runtime. Okay. So it should be here. I guess that's what we need to do for each one of these. Right, so this is going to have to change. And I figured the format of this is probably going to have to change a couple times till we figure it out in total. Because we're kind of designing this on the fly. Right, so let's do this. And so the manifest path for plugin standard UI is going to be plugin UI standard. And testbed is actually going to be right next door, essentially. And that is, for reference, in testbed kapp, we have our app config here, and our asset manifest is here, right? So we're just right next to each other. I suppose the other thing we could do is we just load the asset manifest for this project, right? So we just look right next door and say, hey, what's the asset manifest for this? Open that guy, and then do these references, right? Maybe that's, you know what, that is what we're going to do. That's exactly what we're going to do. I think that's what I had in mind before. Okay, so I guess we don't really need that packages at all then. Right, because the actual package itself will have a reference to the other ones. So I guess we don't actually even need that. Which is fine. So what does the VFS state hold? Question mark. Oops. No, I need the packages. It's the package names I don't need. That's what it was in the config. Okay. All right. So I guess what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to write some code to actually parse our manifest files. But the first thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to parse our manifest file that's right next to where we are. So we will, in this case, we'll have a to-do for release builds look at binary file. So we'll have constant character pointer, and we'll say asset manifest, right? And the name of it's going to be file path. Yeah, that makes sense. Right, and then we're going to do, I guess we're going to have to do a direct file system access for this, which I think is fine. So we need file system. If I can type. Let's see, platform, file system. And we'll do file handle. And we'll say if not file system open. And we want file path. File mode read only. Binary is false, and then we pass the address of F. If that fails, failed to load, primary K package, VFS init failed. Right, so we go ahead and open that, and then we can do a file system size, pass the address of F again, U64 size, pass the address of size. If this whole thing fails, failed to get system file size, we'll have another VFS initialize cleanup. I guess up here we'll do, after this one, we'll do B8 success equals false. And then here we'll do file system close. File system. Why is that not showing up? That was it, right? IntelliSense is weird sometimes. All right. So we make sure that we kill that file handle. VFS initialize cleanup. We want to, issue a go to that guy. All right. So we do that. If we successfully get the file size, then we actually, let's do one more thing. Or size equals 0, right? We'll check for that. We'll call that invalid as well. Okay, so we've got that. We need to do file system read all text. So we want a file handle out text. So we need a character array file content equals k allocates size mem tag string, right? We'll do file contents, and then I guess we can also do, we're going to throw this away. Right, and check this for failure. Failed to read all text. For primary assets manifest. Right, again, go to VFS initialize cleanup. All right, so here, we'll make sure to close the file system handle. We'll say if file content, and in this case, we'll do string free because that's a shortcut to sort of our free with the string memory tag. So we'll say file content. And we'll only do this if, actually, we want to do that regardless because we're not going to hold on to that content. We're going to clear that up when we go to parse it, no matter what we do. So we always want to clean that up. No, we don't. If not success. Right? Wait, why do we need to hold on to that? We don't. Never mind. I'm tripping. Okay, we always need to clean that up. And then here we can return success, right? And what we'll do is right before this go to, we'll say success equals true, right? So we'll basically skip past all of this other code every time we fail at some point in this process. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to parse an asset manifest. There's two places we could do this. We could do it in the VFS. And because the VFS owns packages, that might make sense. But these asset manifests are for packages, so it might also make sense to locate it there. That way, if we write any utilities against this, we'd be writing it against the sort of K package stuff. Legend says that 1% of your viewers think Brazilian is language. Quick question. Sorry if it's already been asked, but how does kohi, if it does handle reflection, as C doesn't support it natively? It does not currently. Does not support reflection. If you're talking reflection in terms of like taking this and like converting it to objects. Deserialization, things like that. So it's somewhat of a manual process, and we'll actually see that here because we're going to write the parser for let's see, we'll write this one first, right? So when we go to ads, because we have ads, finish that in a minute. Smudge. Is Brazilian object oriented? I don't know. Trash can will have to answer that because or Bifask. Is Brazilian object-oriented? That's a question I can't answer. Mean Mr. Mustard says it's dingus-oriented. No, that's the programming I do on here. Brazilian ECS. BECS? Or is it BCS? Brazilian Component System. All right, so we've got about 30 seconds left on ads. Just fix my hair. It's getting in my face and being annoying. Okay. Almost there. BCS is Better Call Saul, nothing else. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Ads are dead. So let's continue. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is our parsing. So I guess what I'll do is we'll sort of put a to-do here. Parse manifest. And we'll go back to this guy. And what is this bleating about now? Conflicting types. Oh, right, because I didn't do that. Okay. So we'll go all the way to the end here. And this won't be static, but we'll say B8 K package parse manifest file. I guess we could say parse manifest file content. Right, we'll just say content, and then we'll also provide a pointer as a manifest out manifest. So first off, if we don't have content or we don't have out manifest, K package parse manifest file content requires valid pointers to, let me get rid of that view, content and out manifest, you dingus. Right? So we have that. We'll come all the way down here and return true. And we're going to need to go to the top. And we want to include parsers, case and parser, because that's the language that our file is. And thankfully, the actual parsing of that is going to be easy. It's actually just extracting the objects that's a little bit verbose at the moment. I do want to work on that API some more at some point to simplify it a little bit, but for now we'll do case and let's do tree from string. So the source is going to be the content, and then we have the case and tree, which is the parsed objects and stuff from the actual file itself. I believe this does return Boolean. Yes, it does. So if this fails, failed to parse asset manifest file. See logs for details. And we'll do, oh shoot, that's the content, isn't it? I guess we could say path too, right? You know, if I'm including the file path there, I probably could just open the file here. Instead of doing it over on the other side. This is already doing file system stuff at this level anyways. Maybe that makes more sense. That does make more sense. VFS. All this stuff from here down we can just do here. So file system open file path is just going to be path. VFS file, VFS init failed. We'll get rid of that part of the error message. Okay, so here we go with that. Let's call this instead package parse. Just call it parse cleanup. Good enough. Okay, so failed to read all text for asset manifest. I suppose we could also do add some more information here so we know which one. This should be asset manifest path. Okay. All right, so we parse the manifest here. So let's take this and put that here. That's no longer a to-do. And then we also have casein tree cleanup. And we'll do address of tree down here. And we'll return success. Okay, so that's the whole pattern here. So let's take this, go to kpackage, put that down here, export it, go over here, and let's just do package for now. We'll say kpackage parse manifest file. The path is going to be file path. We don't need the content anymore. We can get rid of that actually. And then the asset manifest is going to be, oh, that's right. We need manifest, not package. We're not ready for this yet. Great. Address of manifest. And of course, we will check this for failure. Failed to parse primary assets manifest. See logs for tails. Turn false. What is this bleating about? Oh, the content. We no longer need that. So we don't need the content here because we actually read that in. So we do need path. Pointers to path and out manifest. That makes more sense. Okay. Right. So we've got that. This content here needs to be file content. Okay. So once we have it parsed, then we need to actually extract properties from file. Let me just catch up with chat here for a second. What's Kson? Good question. So Kson is actually our proprietary language that we wrote on stream. This is designed to be sort of an educational stream as well, right? So it's basically tackles how to do a bunch of things, right? Including writing a game engine, but all the various components that go into that. And so one of the things we wanted to tackle on stream was actually how you would tackle writing a basic language. In this case, it's just a storage format, but like our app config, for example, is written in it. And it looks very similar to what JSON looks like, with a few syntactic differences. But that's basically what we used for our inspiration behind this, right? So we actually have a system that can take this file and parse it, break it down into objects, strings, numbers, things like that. Eventually, we're going to add some custom types to it so that it can process things like vectors, for example, on the fly. But for right now, we just handle some basic types. We can nest objects. We can have arrays of objects, things like that. So it's a very expressive language that we just kind of wrote a lexer and a parser for here on stream, and that's what we use now to configure everything. In the beginning of the series, we actually used a format that looked kind of like this, which is more like an INI type of format, which is a very easy format to parse and read, but it's not very expressive. You can't really easily nest things with it and so forth. So we came up with this language as a cure to that issue. So dingus, yeah, it's just, you know, when you're being a dingus, you know, you're being foolish, or being silly or crazy or doing stupid stuff. So we have a phrase on here that's kind of been coined called dingus-oriented programming, which is when I make stupid programming mistakes on stream. It's kind of a play on object-oriented programming, if you will. Usually we pass a handle to an already open file, right? Yes. Did I forget to do that? Nope, I did. Yeah. So these functions will actually fail if the file doesn't have a valid handle. How can you see the end result of what you're writing? First time chatter, welcome, by the way. What do you mean by that question? Can you expound on that a little bit? Let's see. You dingus. My favorite phrase in Brazilian. That's funny. Was the jump from VS to NeoVim difficult? I've been trying myself, but my ADHD brain makes it difficult to learn all the keybinds. So I hear you on that, by the way. You can get past it, though, I promise. What I did was I wound up essentially doing the Vim tutor a couple of times a day, every day for a couple of weeks on end, working my way through that, basically once in the morning, once like in the afternoon, and then sometimes a third time. And I basically just kept going through that over and over and over again until I got used to navigating it. At least, with the basics that they show you there. And then once I was at that point, I was able to start learning how to configure it and stuff, and learning how to put it all together and to actually use it effectively. I'm still always learning new things. But yeah, it took me a couple of months to get used to it, and probably at this, reasonably the same speed that I was in any other editor beforehand. That took a couple of months. Now that I've been using it for a couple of years, I'm much faster with it. I'm not just breaking even anymore. I'm actually much faster using it. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's doable. No hate for OOP. I've been using it since 2015. I just don't use it unless I have to, right? Sometimes it makes sense. Most of the time, especially for stuff like this, it doesn't. But yeah, it has its use cases. Right tool for the right job, right? So I typed that question right before you coded it with the file handle. Oh, I gotcha. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, sometimes I fall a little bit behind on chat when I'm in the zone. Why not use JSON? I could have. But what I wanted to do was go through the process of like, hey, what are all the rules for this language? What are the things we want to support? What are the things we don't want to support? And I didn't need to necessarily support everything that JSON did, but I wanted to use it as sort of a template. And we wanted to go through, the process of coming up with the rules for our own language as well as creating the language itself. So it was sort of a process from beginning to end. And eventually we might extend this into a scripting language, or at least maybe a scripting variant of it to allow actual execution of code. But that's way off if we do that. If you extended JSON, you would have to go back if JSON changed. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I don't necessarily want people to just like blindly drop JSON in here and hope it works. I wanted to be really explicit, like, no, this is a different thing. This is not JSON, right? And I wouldn't want to have to rewrite that parser every single time a new version of JSON came out either. So yeah, that's also a solid point. Let's see. Would VS look like VS? Some swear word that sounds like cannot. Oh my. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat that on stream, but yeah, I get your point. Yeah, we bleep out VS here because this. I try to be a family-friendly stream, and we can't be talking about editors like this. All right. The only thing that we use the editor that shall not be named, the only thing we use this for is not the editor at all, it's the debugger. Okay, so what we need to do here is, let's open up one of our manifests. We're going to open up, let's do the testbed one first. So we need to gather a few things. We need to gather, we'll start off easy. We'll start with the package name. We'll get that first. Then we'll get the references, and then we'll loop through the assets. And I think that's the only thing, right? So there's really just one variable and two collections of things that we need to parse. So there's not actually that much to work our way through. So what this does, whoops, wrong key. So what this guy does is it takes the string that's in this file and breaks it down, tokenizes it, turns it into objects and values with names, right? And so we can take what's in this generated tree and we can actually extract properties out of it. So, for example, when we say tree, the base level objects for this are the package name, references, and assets, right? This one's a string, this one's an array, this one's an array. And then if we go into that array, we say, oh, we have an object here, which has a variable in it called name that has a value runtime, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we could just kind of proceed through it that way. So what we want to do first is case in, let's see, object value get string. And the object we're going to pass is the address of tree root, right? So there's a root object that basically owns all of this. And then the name that we're looking for in this case is package name. So that's the name of the string that we want to get. And then we need something to hold its out value. I'll have to refresh my memory here. I think this allocates for us. So what we'll do is we will say, actually we could just do, let's do package, package, and we'll say package name equal, actually we don't even have to do that. We could just literally pass it here. The address of package name. And if that's not found, we'll do asset manifest format package name is required but not found. And then we can go to package parse cleanup. Okay, so we go ahead and we get the package name, and this is basically how we extract properties. So the next thing we need to do is get references, which is an array type. So we have case in array, and we'll say references, and we'll do case in object property. Now we're going to say get object here, and that's because in case-in, objects and arrays are almost the same thing. They both contain variables. The only difference is objects contain named variables versus arrays contain unnamed variables of objects or anything else, right? That's the only real difference. So in code, they're actually treated, they're interchangeable. So in this case, we want to say, again, the base is tree root. The name we're looking for this time is references. And the value is going to be the address of references. And again, actually, we could say that references aren't required. Because technically speaking, not every package has references, right? I know we're using this to parse our primary manifest, but we're going to have secondary manifest to parse, and we're going to use the same logic. So that is, we'll do B8 contains references. Because if that's not found, that's actually a valid use case. In our case, we do have references, so we want to use them. So we'll say if contains references. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll create an asset manifest reference. We'll do this. I should probably do that here too, just to make sure these things are zeroed out. So we'll say reference, and then we will actually extract the individual references, right? So we've actually got to figure out, okay, we have this array. How many things does it actually contain? So we'll say, I think it's I32. Maybe it's U32. I can't remember. Reference array count. We'll set that to 0, and then we'll say casein array. What was it? Was it count? Get? Yeah. And so array, we're going to now pass references. And it was a U32, so we're going to say the address of reference array count. That should succeed, but if it doesn't for some reason, get array count for references. And then we're going to do else here. Put that here. Technically speaking, if we don't get a count for this, it's not... That would mean it was probably declared as an object. I guess it's not really an error, it's more of a warning. So we'll just skip it. Okay. Otherwise, what we can do at this point is we can say for U32 I equals 0, I is less than reference array count plus I, and we can actually start looping through the references. Okay, so what we do here is, since our array actually has objects in it, we are going to go ahead and get another object. So we're going to say casein object this time, and we'll say ref object equals adds in a minute. Nope, in a minute. We still have 1 minute before adds. Okay. So we'll do casein array element value get objects. So the array is going to be references. The index is going to be I. And the out value is going to be the address of ref obj. Again, if that fails, fail to get object at array index I. Continue. All right. Otherwise, we have gotten that, right? So now we can actually start setting up our reference. So now that we have the object, we would extract properties the same way as we've done up here. So we can actually, actually take this and put that here, minus the goto. That's going to be a continue. Let's also add to this. We'll skip it, right? And again, let's actually do, let's do a warn on this. We have adds. New version of JSON, when does that happen? When did JSON 5 come out? I'm trying to remember. JSON 5 was started in 2012. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a bit. It's been a bit, right? But it does happen. Let's see. Yeah, VS does debug pretty well. It does. GDB is nice. I mean, actually, it sits over top of GDB, but it's just... It's so much faster with the graphical debugger. It just is. Especially when you're dealing with something on this scale. You prefer full Visual Studio's debugger. It has its advantages. I'll definitely say that. One huge disadvantage is it's Windows only. So there's that. I'm on Linux at the moment. I'm certainly not going to get it on Mac. I mean, unless you use, emulation, but I don't want to do that. All right. Ads are done. Let's see. So we need to get the object property value string. So instead of tree root, this is going to be ref object. And from that, we want to just get name. And then this is going to be ref name. All right. So we'll get the name. Fail to get object, let's say reference name at array index. I think we can say that's fine. Continue. I think all that's fine. Okay, so we get the, because we need both the name and the path for this to be valid, right? So we'll just continue on if this fails, because these are just warnings. None of this stuff is required, so that's fine. The next thing we'll do is we'll do another string extraction. This time, it'll be path, and that will go to ref.path. Right? And now, once we get here, we've successfully parsed the reference. So what we should do here is, if we know this contains references and we have a count, before we actually start this loop, we should actually do package. Oh, we didn't set up references, did we? We did not. I don't think we parsed those either, because the package doesn't care about it. The file system really does, but that's fine. So let's do asset manifest. I created the struct for it, did I not? Oh, because I did create it. I'm trying to add to the package, not the manifest. Asset manifest. And this shouldn't be package. This should be manifest. Okay. So here, back to my original thought. Manifest references equals darray creates, and that's going to be asset manifest reference. And then what we can do is, for each one of these that we create, when we're successful, say darray push manifest references, and to that we will push ref. Okay, so we will add to references and stand up a darray for references. All right, we need to go down here to our cleanup. And if we are not successful, spell success right. So if we're not successful, we will need to free that D array. And potentially all the strings within it. So if manifest references u32 ref counts equals the array length references. I is less than ref count plus I. And then I guess what we can just do is if oops, that needs to be manifest references. Manifest references sub I dot name. String free manifest references sub I name. Right, and then we can also look at path. So we free both of those strings. Once we get through the array, then we do darray destroy manifest references. And we'll do manifest references equals 0. Do we actually have a... We do have a reference count. But if we're doing a D array, we don't really need that, I guess. I think I was initially saying I didn't want to use a D array for this, but I think I'm going to. That way we don't have to have a separate count. Which I'm sure that broke some stuff in here, but that's fine. Okay, so we clean up our manifest. So we don't leak memory on a failure. Shouldn't be a big issue, but we'll handle it. Okay, so this is how we handle our references. So that's loading this guy here. And our assets are basically going to look exactly like this, just parsing slightly different properties. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy pasta this. And we'll say process references and process assets. Right? Contains assets. Now, it makes absolutely no sense for us to have an asset manifest with no assets. Well, actually, maybe not. Maybe not. Theoretically, a user could create a manifest that only references other packages, but doesn't actually contain any assets of its own, just as sort of glue for a bunch of other packages that are out there. That could theoretically happen. So I guess we'll make this optional as well, but maybe warn about it. All right, so we'll rename this to asset array counts. This needs to go to assets Okay. I suppose I probably could have, let's see, asset entry, I believe, is what that uses. Is it not? Asset manifest, yeah, that's right. We have an asset manifest asset. And the reason we did that is because this is the configuration for an asset, not the actual asset itself. So it's to differentiate between the two. Okay, so ref objects, let's rename to asset. This needs to be assets, fail to get object at array, blah, 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 skipping, okay. Now this is going to be asset manifest asset. Oh, you know what? This should be asset object. This should be asset. Whoops. Okay, so from that, we're going to get the name. This does have a name and a path, actually, which is good. So we can keep those the same. We just need to add one more. And this one is going to be the type. Okay. So we do require all three of those for the asset to be valid. So I guess I actually see a slight problem here. We're going to leak memory if we do this wrong. So if we fail to get this one, we don't have to do anything. If we fail to get this one, we have to check to see if this one exists and free it. So if ref.name string free ref.name, right? And then this will just go out of scope. It won't exist anymore. So we should probably do the same thing down here. Asset name, copy this once more down here, paste it one more time for path. Oops. Okay, so we have that, name type and path, and then we push this to assets. Okay, and that's our assets, right? And that's the whole file parsed. Forgot to replace the references to assets on the get object call. Did I miss one? Or did I go back? I must have hit that since you typed it. Oh, this one. Thank you. You are correct about that. That would have been an interesting bug to solve. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to search for reference and make sure the ref doesn't exist in here, which it doesn't. So I think we got everything. Okay, so this is the spare me from a huge headache. Yeah, I've done that a couple of times before. So I would have like seen that it didn't exist and I'm debug through it. I probably would have found it, but yeah, would have been kind of annoying. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Sakillis Music, how's it going? Do you know of the terse RDF triple language? Nope, can't say that I do. Interesting. That looks like it would be kind of complicated to parse, though. I did think about writing an XML parser, but then I reminded myself of why I hate XML. But yeah, I'll take a look at it. It's interesting, but it looks, yeah, it's a little complicated for our purposes here. Overkill in this case, yeah. Yeah, I was looking for something super simple for this. But yeah, maybe for, configuring a graph or something that would be good, but when you described your language case and it sounded like you were describing a language like Golang, it made me want to ask you about your opinion of Golang and Zig. Seems strange that there is not something already available that you could find good instead of expanding Kson into a new language. So there are lots of options, right? One of the first things that I do want to bring up is if we ever do add a scripting language to this engine, it will not be part of the core engine. It will actually be a plugin, because we don't really need a scripting language at this point. We actually have hot reloading of the application code. So if I highly doubt I would use a scripting language in any project that I do. But I know a lot of people do like them. So I don't necessarily want it in the core. I would have it operate as a plugin, basically. It would be an add-on to the engine. And so with that, you could theoretically make any plugin that's, you could make one for Lua if you wanted, or C# if you wanted to do that. And that's probably the way I would do it, is just, have our own language. And the only reason I would actually do that is to cover the issue of, what it takes to actually implement a language from scratch. Let me just respond to something really quickly that I got. That's okay. Okay. So, let's see. So the only reason that I would actually make a language of our own is literally just to go through the process of like designing one, again, creating the lexer, the parser, and then setting up the execution and function pointers and all that stuff, like just literally as an exercise point. That would be my only reason for doing it, as like an educational type of thing. But yeah. All right, Mean Mustard. I'll see you next time. Get some rest. Appreciate you stopping by. Have a good one. I learned something when you said scripting language. Some people don't think of low-level languages anymore. With that said, cool. Yeah, essentially we treat C as sort of a scripting language by hot reloading. It's not perfect. It has its issues, but yeah. We were forced to implement C in 2 semesters as a class. Oof. That sounds like a lot of fun, but also a lot of work. I assume that's C without extensions. I wish I had the time to do that kind of stuff these days. Okay. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Okay, so did we put this in the header file? We did. Okay. It's already there. So now I can go back to VFS. Whoops, I wanted the implementation. And the first thing that we're going to do is parse the manifest file content, which it looks like I've already put that in here. So once we have that, we should have our asset manifest. Why do I feel like I didn't hook that up correctly? Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Taman, how's it going? It's good to see you. Yeah, a bit late, but that's cool. I appreciate you showing up. How are you doing? We have quite a few other Brazilians in here tonight, so it's good to have another one here. Out manifest. Did we have our references. We have our assets. Manifest.assets. Oh, wait a minute. We did this. We don't want to do that. We want to use out manifest. I thought so. So that should be, let's see, out manifest. We did that with name, and then this should be out manifest references. And out manifest assets. Okay. And we have the pushes as well. Okay. Okay. Okay, now that's hooked up. Okay, so we should now have our primary asset manifest. So now we should be able to say, okay, kpackage creates from manifest, and we'll pass the address of manifest, and we'll just take this to kpackage primary package for now, and we'll do address of primary package, and we'll check that, make sure it did the thing. If not, failed to create package from primary asset manifest. See logs for details. And in this case, you know what? We'll just return false in this case. Looks like we don't need a couple things up here. We don't need those. We don't need that. Okay, so we create the package from the manifest, and then we do darray push out state packages primary package. Boom. Okay, so we push that, but then we also need to, before we actually destroy the asset manifest, which I don't actually think we have a method of doing, so we need to set that up too. We need to, let me think about this. We need to examine its references and load those as well, right? So, thank you for the follow. Examine primary package references and load them as needed. All right, and this is going to involve a little bit of sort of self-referencing, right? Because we can have a situation where the same package is referenced more than once. So for example, our testbed package makes a reference to runtime. The plugin standard UI package also makes a reference to runtime. So theoretically, we don't have to include this here. We get that via this. But let's say the user didn't know that, or they didn't want to have to think about it, whatever. We'll have to check to make sure that the package isn't already loaded before loading it. So I'm thinking recursion is probably going to be our friend here. And we're just going to say load sub packages. And we'll pass along the state, so we have our array. We'll pass along a pointer to the primary package, or I guess the parent package, if you will, and its asset manifest. So we'll do B8 process package refs. All right, so we'll take VFS state. Need that. We need do I need to pass the package itself? I don't think I do. I think I just need the manifest. You know what? Let me pass the package, actually, because we might be dealing with binary packages, and those don't have a manifest. So we'll say kpackage parent. Now, I don't think... Yeah, this doesn't include reference data. We're going to have to think about that, actually. I'm going to come back to that. We're going to use the asset manifest for right now. And we'll say process manifest refs. When we go to do the binary version of this, we'll have to have like a separate function that handles this, which I think makes sense. Because when we load the binary, we'll essentially have this same information just loaded into the binary. So I think at that point it'll make sense to actually pass the package along. So let's do a const pointer to an asset manifest, because we shouldn't be modifying it, right? If, you know what, this is going to be static, because we don't need it outside of this, so I don't have to be as crazy with my error checking. So let's do if manifest references and well, actually, I guess we just have to do that. If we don't have any references, we just return true. If we do have references, we'd only want to return false in a failure, right? Thank you for the subscribe over on YouTube. Appreciate that. So if we only have, let me think. Yeah, we only want to return false on a failure. So what we'll do is we'll do a u32 ref count equals darray length manifest references. All right, and we'll do for u32 I equals 0, I is less than ref count plus I. And then I guess we can just, for convenience sake, have adds. Let's see. Classic C, our instructor had a PhD from Carnegie Mellon U, which is the big language university, yeah, in the USA, yep. It was not an easy class, but with the Lex and Yak, I was not that big of a deal to do the languages. I believe the tools have been replaced Bison is the one I've heard of. Yep, I've heard of that one too. So it might not be a big deal. Thought I'd give you the summary. Not trying to brag, no worries. That's something you should be proud of for sure. Hated the class because the amount of work in a limited amount of time. You probably love the class today. Yeah, maybe. You just got home from an orchestral Pearl Jam tribute show. That's pretty cool. That sounds awesome. Thank you for the stretch redeem. I appreciate that. Almost done with ads. All right, cool. So where we were is we're basically going to process the references. So we'll do asset manifest reference pointer ref equals address of manifest references sub I. And then I guess what we'll do is we'll essentially want the file path. And I guess the name in this case doesn't really matter all that much. We're essentially going to do this stuff. Right, so we have our manifest, let's call this new manifest. File path is going to be ref path. This is going to be new. Let's change this one too. New manifest. Let's take the primary keyword out of there. Okay. And then it's just going to be state packages that we push. And instead of primary package, we'll just call it package. Okay, so we parse the manifest, we create the package, we push that package onto the array. And then we'll basically just do this again. So we'll say if not process manifest refs, pass along state, pass along let's see, how do I want to do this? State packages. I'm going to have to re-get this. So U32 package count equals the array length state packages. And then we want to do the address of state packages package count -1. So if that fails, failed to process manifest reference, see logs for details. We're going to return false on that one, which is going to make it fail all the way up the chain. Now, why is this bleating? Oh, because I passed the package, not the manifest? Oh, I guess I don't. Okay, yep. I'm still thinking I'm past packages here. I don't. New manifest. Okay. We need to have some sort of a way to clean up these manifests, though. So let's go to here. We don't have create for manifest. Okay, so let's do void k package manifest destroy asset manifest. Right, and we're not going to bother to find that right now. I want to finish out this logic. So I guess, do I want to destroy? Let's not return false there. Let's say B8 success equals true. In this case, success equals false. Break. Return success here. So that needs to go up a level. And then what we'll do is, in this case, we'll also clean up the manifest. Let's do k package manifest destroy address of manifest. What? Oh, it's supposed to be new manifest. Okay. Okay, I think I've got this right. So I also need to do a check here before we push the package. Actually, before we do any of this. Am I going to need this in more than one place? I don't think so. Well, let's do U32 package count equals the array length state packages. For U32 j equals 0, j is less than package count plus plus j if string equal, I'll do a case insensitive compare under this, string equal I, state packages sub j name, if that equals ref name, k trace package already loaded skipping. Let's see, break. Okay. Actually, we need one more step. So we need B8 exists equals false. Exists equals true. If exists, continue. Whoops. Dang it. How many times can I type the wrong thing? Dingus-oriented programming. All right. Don't load the same package more than once. Okay. So we handle that. And in this case, we just break out of it early. Okay. So in this case, all we need to do is take this process references bit down here right there. So this is going to be out state, and this is going to be just manifest. And then we don't need this. We don't need that. We can just say return false or return true. Okay. Cool. So I think we've got everything figured out as far as what we need for packages and package references and loading them. So that should pretty much handle everything all the way through and through, just from our VFS initialize. We will need to handle the shutdown and the request asset, but that being said, we are out of time for tonight because I have to get up and work in the morning. So, yeah, we've done pretty well tonight, I think. We'll continue this tomorrow night. Let's see. Got bumped by the advertisements and didn't hear what you said about the language course. Hope it was positive. I looked at all of your references on the stream. Nice work. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I was just saying that sounds like it was an awesome project, and I was reading the reading your message out loud. Basically, I have heard of Bison. I considered briefly using that for building a language parser, but then I'm like, we're doing everything from scratch here, so I didn't go that route. But if I were building something like a compiler, I might actually do that. But that's, you have every right to brag about that. That's kind of a cool project to have under your belt for sure. Very, very cool stuff. All right. So with that being said, this is where we're going to end the stream tonight. I'm going to pick somebody to raid. Let me see who is on. Looking for something relatively related to what we're doing. Maybe somebody we haven't raided before? We'll see. Let's see. There's a lot of people doing game jam stuff. Okay. I think I'm just going to check and make sure they're not like on an ad break or something before we raid them. Oh, Rianar is online? Why didn't I see him pop up? Yes, he is online. Perfect. Okay, even better than what I was going to do. All right, so we are going to raid... There we go. We are going to raid Rianart. He's making a pixel art tower defense game in C++. It looks like he's just getting ready to start. So it looks like he literally just started. So I'm going to let the raid timer run all the way in hopes that he is actually beginning by the time, or he's actually streaming by the time the raid kicks off. But while that counter is going down, I want to say thank you to you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys tuning in, following along with me, and I really enjoy, having these streams and interacting with you guys and hearing what you're up to and stuff like that. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you haven't already, feel free to follow me on the Twitch side, on the YouTube side. The links are all on the profile there. I would greatly appreciate the follows. I'm trying to grow the channel, and every one of you counts. So yeah, I really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow night, around 9ish probably, maybe a little bit earlier. And yeah. So good. It looks like he just actually started. So I'm going to click raid now, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.